Konnichiwa minasan, I'm Matayu and this is manga you may have missed. Last time, in response to our last two manga being sword-based fantasy, I promised something shojo. I did not, however, promise there would be no swords. Today's manga is Clamp's RG Veda. I'd ask for a show of hands of the people who've heard of Clamp, but that's kinda pointless. Clamp is a four-woman manga team whose members are Nanase Okawa, Mokuna, Tsubaki Nekoi, and Satsuki Iragashi. There were more members in the group when they first started in 1989, but today only these four remain. If you have heard of them, it's probably for one of their better-known works, like Cardcaptor Sakura or Chobits, or for their work as the art directors for the anime Code Geass: Lelouch of the Rebellion. Clamp are unique in that their many publications are not all aimed at one demographic. If you go purely by the art style, all of their work is shoujo, but if you judge by their stories, Clamp has created manga that falls into shoujo, shonen, josei, and even seinen in terms of who the manga are aimed at. RG Veda is unique in that it was Clamp's first published work. So what is an RG Veda? The manga is named for one of the four canonical sacred texts of Hinduism, the Rig Veda. I apologize if I'm pronouncing that wrong. It contains several poetical accounts of the origin of the world, as well as hymns praising the gods and ancient prayers for life and prosperity. RG Veda is not an adaptation of the text, although the manga does draw some story elements from it. RG Veda was originally published in 1989. The series lasted for 10 volumes, all of which have been translated by Tokyo Pop in North America and by Madman Entertainment in Australia and the UK. The series inspired a 2-episode OVA. The series begins with exposition. It tells us that in the beginning, gods ruled the universe. Humans lived in peace under the Emperor of Heaven. Everything was nice, peaceful, and happy, so much so that even Ashura-O, the god of war, thought not of fighting. However, as usual, everything changed when the Fire Nation attacked. By the Fire Nation, I of course mean the then General Taishakuten, who revolts against heaven in search of power. Our title page tells us that, in a shocking departure from cliché, he actually pulls it off, and becomes the ruler of heaven, starting an era of darkness. The chapter's title is Rebirth of Ashura. In present day, we are told that Kuyo has escaped. Who is Kuyo? Taishakuten informs us that she is the former stargazer for the now-deceased Emperor of Heaven. A couple of nobles mutter to one another that Taishakuten's wrath will be pitiless when Kuyo is caught. They also identify other members of the court, namely Karura-O and the missing Ryo-O, who is too sick to attend. Each of these nobles leads a clan and takes on the name of their clan while in office. The suffix "O" can roughly be translated to mean king or lord. The nobles also make note of the newly arrived Yasha-O. Taishakuten chastises Yasha-O for his lateness, but expresses his gladness that Yasha-O would take the time out of his busy schedule to make an appearance at all. He waxes poetic on the skills of the Yasha clan, who are the land's greatest warriors. He then asks if his memory is right regarding Yasha-O's friendship with Kuyo. In the 300 years that have passed since Taishakuten's takeover of heaven, Kuyo has never agreed to serve the new king, instead giving up her power as a stargazer, which in this case is closer to an oracle than an astronomer. Taishakuten then orders Yasha-O to find and kill her. Karura-O protests this order on the grounds that Yasha-O and Kuyo are friends. She says that he must not have known when he gave the order. Someone wasn't paying attention. Taishakuten tells Karura-O that he was fully aware of the friendship and his orders are not hers to question. He then gives her his permission to leave. He extends the permission to Yasha-O as well and says that he's counting on him. He then turns his attention to other matters as he calls over Bishamonten, one of his generals. Karura-O asks Yasha-O if he intends to obey the command, to which Yasha-O says he does not know. This answer does not satisfy Karura-O, but Yasha-O is already leaving. Yasha-O searches for Kuyo by a waterfall. He wonders what happened to Kuyo during her years of captivity and why she refuses to serve Taishakuten. Yasha-O reaches a temple, which he notes is in ruin. He enters, and finds Kuyo, who says that she has been expecting him. All of her friends are dead, she says, and Yasha-O is the only one she can trust. She knew Taishakuten would send him after her. Yasha-O recalls her saying that all of her memories belong to the temple, and remarks that she had often told him of the place. Kuyo rises and says she remained alive to give Yasha-O a message of utmost importance. Kuyo raises her staff into the air and makes a prophecy.
6 stars shall wander and fall. Thou shalt find a child and foster him thyself. He shall be the key to your destiny. The 6 stars shall unite. There is one who shall descend to the house of darkness, one who shall govern the orbit. The blaze of the red lotus thou rearest shall burn away all evil. The 6 stars shall be opposed by all, but dominated by none, and the 6 stars shall be the break that destroys the heavens.
With her duty done, Kuyo collapses to the ground. Yasha-O rushes to her side, but the stargazer has begun to cough up blood. She tells him that the prophecy has been told. Yasha-O asks who the 6 stars are and what the break means, but Kuyo herself doesn't know. Yasha-O then asks if he really has to raise a child. Kuyo raises her head and says that the child is destined to kill him. Ignoring his reaction, she then says she promised someone to transmit the prophecy. It was the last will of Ashura-O. Kuyo refused to serve Taishakuten in order to keep the prophecy a secret. Yasha-O asks if the child is Ashura-O, but Kuyo denies this. Yasha-O muses about the child and asks Kuyo where he is. Kuyo directs him north, to the Shadow Woods. She tells him that the forest grew 300 years ago and that no one has ever been able to enter it. People say that it shelters a demon. Yasha-O expresses interest in meeting the child and tells Kuyo to stay alive until he returns with the boy. This directive does not satisfy Kuyo, but Yasha-O is already leaving. We also learn Kuyo's motivation. She loved the now-deceased Yashao and is carrying out her beloved's last wish. The Wheel of Destiny is in motion as Yashao enters the Shadow Woods. He feels like he's walking in circles due to the nature of the forest. This nature includes moving vines, apparently. The vines move to attack him, but fortunately, Yashao has seen enough hentai to know where this is going and unsheathes his sword. The vines retract at the side of the blade, which Yashao finds odd. Yashao eventually reaches the stump of a tree that is connected to the other trees around it. He says that he can hear a heartbeat coming from the stump. He wonders if the child is inside. To test this theory, he takes his sword and slices at the stump. It shatters, and a small baby is revealed from within. Also revealed is the form of an ethereal Bishonen. The child continues to sleep as the Bishonen awakens. The Bishonen asks who Yashao is. He says that by entering the woods, Yashao disturbed his sleep. Yashao wonders if the Bishonen is an illusion due to his resemblance to the baby. The Bishonen says that the woods will no longer protect him because of Yashao. He asks what the Lord's purpose is. Yashao introduces himself and says he came to free the Bishonen. The Bishonen asks if Yashao understands his own purpose. He says that because of Yashao, the world shall know hell's flames. He introduces himself as Ashura. Ashura's soul, for that's what the Bishonen is, returns to his body. The baby descends into Yashao's arms. Yashao leaves the forest with baby Ashura. He ponders the child's identity and wonders if he really has slept for 300 years. And why was the boy's soul separate from his body? As Yashao exits the forest, a member of his tribe rides up to him. The man tells him that the Yasha clan is under attack from monsters. Their kekai, or force field, was still standing, but they need Yashao's assistance post-haste. Yashao mounts the man's horse and gives him the baby. The man asks who he is, and Yashao actually tells him the truth. The baby's name is Ashura, and that he's the last scion of a warrior clan that was exterminated 300 years ago. The explanation does not satisfy the man, but Yashao is already leaving on the horse. To himself, he asks Kuyo's forgiveness and tells her that he's found the child and will return soon. The man interrupts his musings to direct his attention to something in the distance. A giant serpent is attacking a village. The village is defended by a force field, the kekai. Yashao draws his sword and tells the man to cast his personal kekai. The two, still on the horse with the baby Ashura, charge the serpent. They escape the serpent's flames unscathed, and their kekai merges with the villages, seeing them safely inside. More members of the Yasha clan run up to Yashao. He dismounts the horse and tells the man to keep the baby safe. He then starts giving orders as the man wonders what to do with the kid. He runs to the village and finds a litter to put him in. Meanwhile, the Yasha clan soldiers are reporting to Yashao. They say they barely had time to raise the kekai when the monsters attacked. Two soldiers remark offhand that they thought they'd seen the last of such monsters, but they're confident in Yashao's ability to keep them safe. Their happy prediction is interrupted by a noise coming from the tent the man put baby Ashura in. Yashao runs in to find a cluster of vines have engulfed the baby. The men say they tried to open it with their weapons, but couldn't. Yashao realizes that Ashura felt the danger the village was in and took steps to protect himself. He unsheathes his sword and holds the naked blade up to the vines. The vines withdraw to reveal Ashura, now a toddler. The men are shocked by the boy's transformation, and Yashao calls to him. Ashura wakes up and responds, calling him Yasha. Sometime later, an elder of the Yasha clan is chastising Yashao. He says that a child of the Ashura clan will bring down the wrath of the Emperor of Heaven. Yashao dismisses Taishaku-ten as an upstart, but the elder says that Yashao was young and did not witness the war started by Taishaku-ten 300 years previously. After he murdered the rightful Emperor of Heaven, he imprisoned the Emperor's daughter and killed all who opposed him. The elder asks Yashao if he is aware of the Ashura clan's ultimate fate. Yashao says he is. Only the Emperor's wife Shashi survived. She was a priestess in the human world at the time and is now Taishaku-ten's wife. The elder reiterates that Taishaku-ten is merciless to those who disobey him. He says that the late Ashura was a man of outstanding worth, and that he feels compassion for their clan. However, the destiny of the Ashura clan is not something the Yasha clan needs to involve itself with. If Yashao keeps the child, it will look like an act of rebellion due to his standing as the head of the Yasha clan. This could cause the destruction of the Yasha clan. Yashao protests that the child is innocent, but the elder decrees that he will bring nothing but misery. He cautions Yashao not to go against the Emperor for the sake of the entire clan. Since the Ashura clan's demise, the Yasha have been the guardians of heaven and earth. They cannot be in disagreement with the Emperor of Heaven. Yashao gets up to go patrol, the village is still under assault, and takes Ashura with him. This does not satisfy the elder, who protests that Ashura is cursed and that his whole clan was meant to die, but Yashao is already leaving. Outside, Ashura is frolicking near the outskirts of the village. Yashao warns him that he's getting too close to the edge of the kekai. Suddenly, a strange man falls from the sky. Ashura asks if he is okay, but the man is only capable of saying he's hungry. After eating, he apologizes for his initial rudeness and explains that he almost died on his journey. He and Ashura feed each other. Yashao comments on the oddity of the man's name. Kujaku means peacock. Kujaku says that his name isn't any stranger than the name Ashura. He says it's strange to hear a forbidden name. With his pointed ears and golden eyes, and his facial features being typical of the Ashura clan, Kujaku deduces that Ashura has the blood of the ruling family in his veins. He says that those of the ruling family live for 3,000 years and are greatly respected in heaven. If Yashao keeps the child, he says, everyone will think he's rebelling. He says it's careless of Yashao to be playing with the child that will kill him someday. Yashao realizes that Kujaku knows of Kuyo's prophecy. He asks Kujaku who he is. Kujaku insists that he's simply a traveler, but Yashao doesn't buy it. He says that Kujaku's purple eyes indicate that he's a demon and therefore should not have been able to enter the kekai of the Yasha clan. Kujaku says it's a secret and that he was only joking about Ashura. At that moment, a Yasha soldier enters the tent and says that the kekai has been breached. As he's putting on his armor, Yashao asks if he really has to take Asha into battle with him. The soldiers tell him yes because of Ashura's tree protection thing he does. It might endanger the women and the children that will stay behind in the village. They say that the child is cursed. If the Emperor's men find him, they'll destroy the village. Kujaku implores Yashao to take him. He says that any of the soldiers could kill Ashura while he's away fighting. Ashura will be safer on the battlefield. Yashao contemplates this and finally tells Ashura to join him. Kujaku thanks Yashao for the food and disappears into thin air. Yeah, he does that. Yashao simply shrugs this off and calls for his horse. The serpents await them outside the Kikai. They surround the Yasha clan, but one swipe of Yashao's sword beheads a beast, and also sends Ashura flying. The boy tumbles out of Yashao's reach, but he is saved by the man from earlier. Yashao tells him to take care of Ashura. The man has something of a fanboy moment as he regards Yashao, wishing he could be like the Lord someday. His inner monologue is interrupted by the serpent trying to swallow them whole. As the giant serpent bears down on them, power springs from Ashura's hands. It expands and engulfs the snake, burning it. Yashao does a head count while the man thanks Ashura for saving his life. Yashao gathers up Ashura and tells the man to return to the village with the others. The man asks where Yashao is going. Yashao simply says that he made a promise. I'm not sure if this satisfies the man or not, but Yashao is already leaving. As they arrive at the waterfall temple where Yashao left Kuyo, Ashura thinks to ask where they're going. Yashao says that they're going to visit a lady who wants to meet Ashura. He calls to Kuyo as they enter, but gets no response, because Kuyo has been impaled on the wall with her own staff. Ashura, not understanding the meaning of dead yet, asks who she is as Yashao mourns. From behind him, Kujaku says he warned Yashao that Ashura would bring him ill luck. Yashao asks Kujaku if he killed her. Kujaku denies the accusation, instead naming one of Taishakuten's generals, Bishamonten, as the murderer. Kujaku asks if Yashao was really naive enough to believe that Taishakuten wouldn't track her down. The moment he decided to leave Kuyo alive and keep Ashura, Kujaku says, Yashao's destiny was set. Kuyo's prophecy has come true. The wheel of destiny is in motion. Hell will break loose upon this world, and it will be so as long as Ashura is by your side. He'll bring your doom. He says Yashao should have listened to the elder. Yashao demands to know why Kujaku didn't prevent Kuyo's murder, as Ashura runs his hand through Kuyo's blood and puts it in his mouth. Quite simply, it was none of Kujaku's business. Ashura continues to lick the blood off his arms as Yashao denounces Kujaku as a traitor. A change starts to come over Ashura as Yashao draws his sword and tries to cut Kujaku. Kujaku appears more exasperated than threatened, asking if wanton violence is Yashao's only reaction. He asks if Yashao has considered Bishamonten's current whereabouts. Where would he have gone after murdering Kuyo? Yashao doesn't want to play a guessing game, and Ashura's eyes begin to glow. Kujaku calmly tells Yashao that Taishakuten won't forgive his betrayal. At that very moment, the Yasha clan must be forgotten for a second as Ashura has begun to speak in a demonic voice. He says that they must know hell for disturbing his rest. Braving the forbidden has dire consequences. He. From now on, Yashao will be alone in his agony. As he speaks, an assault on the Yasha clan's village begins. The soldiers move to put out the fires caused by flaming arrows, but are shocked to see that they're being attacked by the army of the Emperor of Heaven. They are led, of course, by the General of the North, Bishamonten. The elder bemoans his own prediction as the soldiers realize that this is Yashao's fault for bringing Ashura among them. The man objects that Ashura saved his life and therefore couldn't be responsible for the attack. The others say he's just too young to understand. The elder tells them to stand by Yashao and that their fate was decided the second Ashura set foot in the village. They must fight against Bishamonten. Meanwhile, a soldier tells Bishamonten that the Yasha clan appear ready to resist their attack. Bishamonten says that's to be expected. He also says they must be slaughtered to the last man, woman, child, and infant. No seed of evil must remain. To the waiting Yasha clan, the army of heaven's approach looks like a coming storm. The Yasha clan fights valiantly against the warriors. Meanwhile, a woman named Hanranya is watching the battle through water mirrors. Hanranya is Taishakuten's seer. He tells her that the Yasha clan, powerful as they are, can't measure up to Bishamonten. Hanranya wonders if the northern defenses will be adequate without the Yasha clan. Bishamonten is technically killing his own men. Taishakuten tells her not to worry, the other clans can pick up the slack. He's more worried about the prophecy of the 6 stars, which he knows about how? Ignoring that, Taishakuten says that Yashao has freed Ashura-O's son, one of the 6 stars. As of yet, Yashao has not realized that he himself is another one of the 6. If Taishakuten doesn't act, all of the stars will assemble around Ashura and end his reign. Naturally, he opposes the sentiment. He will maintain peace as long as he's Emperor of Heaven, but sacrifices must be made. The blood of the Ashura clan was poured into the foundation of the realm. Adding the Yasha clan's blood shouldn't change anything. Meanwhile, Bishamonten gives the order to finish off all remaining members of the Yasha clan and burn the village. The Yasha clan is no more. As the carnage echoes, the Yasha man from earlier has survived the battle by hiding in a cave. He wanders out, wondering why this has happened. He never asked. You know what, never mind. The village elder grabs him and tells him to tell Yashao not to seek out vengeance. He must stay alive. With this, and despite the man's cries, the elder expires. The man runs away and immediately runs into a patrol. They note that he's a kid, but he's also of the Yasha clan, so he must die. The sword comes down and the man's arm comes off. The soldiers compare kill counts as the man pleads for Yashao-O's help in his head. The men mention that this is all Yashao-O's fault for bringing Ashura to the village. The man can't quite believe this. He thinks that Yashao must have had a reason for his behavior and pleads for an answer. Meanwhile, Ashura is still possessed. He has been telling Yashao the preceding events, which are now complete. He says he warned Yashao of the dangers of waking him, but no, Yashao would rather sacrifice his entire clan. Yashao tells him to shut up and the evil spirit departs. Ashura collapses and Yashao turns to leave. Kujaku tells him that he has no reason to return to his village, and for once, Yashao answers him instead of leaving, saying that his duty is to protect the Yasha clan. He then departs, leaving Kujaku in the dust. Kujaku shrugs, knowing that Yashao can't change destiny. Kuyo foretold it. Ashura is back and no one can stop him. The Yasha clan's destruction was unavoidable. Yashao and Ashura come across the man lying in the road. Ashura goes to help him, but the man shoves him away. He blames Ashura for the clan's destruction, calls him a murderer, and says that he should have died instead. He says that Ashura can't know how much he hates him. Ashura starts to cry as the man tells Yashao not to go to the village. He relays the elder's message. He says that he will pray for Yashao's victory. As his lord, Yashao orders him to stay alive, but the man passes. Yashao has failed in his duty to his clan. The phrase, "it's all your fault," sticks with Ashura. He feels incredibly guilty because of the man's words. He asks Yashao if it truly is his fault that the Yasha clan were slaughtered. Yashao tells him it wasn't his fault. He knows who to blame. In his mind, he addresses Taishaku-ten, asking if the taste of Ashura blood wasn't enough to slake his thirst, that he had to indulge in Yasha blood too. He vows to unite the Six Stars and put an end to Taishaku-ten's reign. He kneels before Ashura and tells him that they are both the last of their clans. He says he must seek out the Emperor to exact vengeance. Ashura asks to come along with him. He thinks Yashao will be lonely without him. Yashao says he'll never leave him. And thus met Yasha and Ashura, as their destiny dictated, so that the Six Stars would unite, and that the blaze from hell would burn away all the evil in this world. The Six Stars will unite against the Emperor of Heaven, and Ashura's hand will turn the wheel of destiny. Kujaku narrates us to the end of the chapter and asks our opinions on his narrating skills. The end. The Veda anime is a 2-episode OVA, or original video animation. It was released on DVD and dubbed in-house by Madman Entertainment in Australia and the UK. Each episode is around 40 minutes long, roughly twice as long as most other anime. However, it could not cover all the material in the manga. The first episode starts with Yashao and Ashura already traveling with another two of the Six Stars. Yashao's clan is long dead by this point. The serpents that attack them do make a cameo appearance, though. I was unable to track down a copy of the dub. However, from what I was able to see, I would urge you to read the manga rather than watch the anime. The first episode feels like you are coming to a story halfway through, which essentially you are. I wish to emphasize that Veda is a tragedy. The ending is not a happy one. Unlike Berserk, where shit just keeps happening to the main character, Veda saves its tragic twists for the very end. Does that mean that Taishaku-ten wins? No, he doesn't, but the cost of the Six Stars' victory is a high one indeed.